And welcome back to my live stream. We are pressing on with Errant Kingdom. This time we are playing Chapter 2 of the Nomad route. We did Chapter 2 of the Night route last week and Chapter 2 of the Ambassador route the week before. So then next week, of course, it'll be Ambassador Chapter 3. But this week is the Nomad, which is another term for spy, assassin, rogue, whatever you want to call them. Our Nomad is called Nasrin Kadir, which means wild rose, and Kadir means capable, powerful. So in the Ambassador and Night routes, we saw a jousting tournament. The Ambassador watched, the Knight participated, and in this case, the Nomad will also watch. But first, if you recall, at the end of the previous chapter, Raiden was pretty badly hurt on the way to the guild headquarters, and ended with our arrival there. So that is where we're going to pick up. As soon as there we go. I love the music, it's so amazing. Additionally, Lunaris Games, the company who wrote Errant Kingdom, they released a demo of their first game, the revamp of their first game, When the Night Comes. It's the first two chapters, basically, fully voiced, but they had originally given it to a few select streamers to live stream, but there's been a delay in releasing the revamp, so they released the first two chapters as a demo to kind of tide people over. So I have been seriously pondering whether I want to live stream that on Sunday or not. I probably will, because lovely voices. The voice actors especially, I just have this thing for voices. I don't know why. And it's not like I fall in love with the voices or the people who have those voices. They're so lovely. I almost wish we could have that with Errant Kingdom, but I'm not going to pull that. It would be probably more of a nightmare to revamp it than when the night comes. They're already doing a lot of revamping as it is. So for now, we will just enjoy, and you will just have to listen to me yammer. So, the door shuts behind us. The door seals shut behind us with a muted thud, and it feels like the final nail in my coffin. That's not ominous at all. Raiden is still clinging to me like his life depends on it. My shirt crumpled in his grip, torn to shreds, and the hand, thanks to my not so torn to shreds at the hand, thanks to my not so valiant effort to patch his wound. He's pale, his eyes unfocused, but he somehow still infuriatingly even killed, despite the alarming bloodlust, enough to continue trying to charm me, or annoy me. It's hard to differentiate between the two. Annoyingly charming, how's that? Regardless, never have I been smacked in the chest with such overt flirtations before. Not from a possibly soon-to-be dead man, anyway. Bela fixes me with a knowing glare, and I hand the fading assassin over, bemused that he still has the energy and balls to wink at me as he finally releases me and trades himself over her instead. I've got him. Take a seat somewhere and the Viper will come for you. The Viper. I like that. The Viper? Why does everyone around here have weird, ominous names? Because it's fun. She smirks and shrugs, grunting as she hoists Raiden up where his knees snag. I think that should be one. Don't worry, you'll be fine. As I said, just be yourself. They like that. I laugh nervously, and then they're both gone. So I do as instructed, and I find myself a seat in this strange little room. Look at this background. Isn't this beautiful? Kind of reminds me of the southern doors, so not as damp. And southern doors didn't open off a sewer either. Come on, there it is. The ceilings are high and dramatic, held up by elegant stone pillars that seem to merge with the foundation. Olive green banners also hang from the walls, neatly edged in silver thread, and glisten with that familiar snake and dagger emblem. I mean, there's a reason that reminds you of the Slytherin, except instead of olive green, there's emerald green. There's an impressive collection of armor and weaponry, swords and daggers and shields that I'm sure could tell many interesting stories. As far as assassin's guilds go, it's pretty fucking nice. Sure looks it. There isn't anyone else in here, which I find odd, but I let that thought pass because I'm grateful I'm not having to make small talk with a toothless small talk. With a toothless thief after that whole experience in the sewers. My clothes and skin are saturated with grit and blood, my hands are dark and terrible crimson, and I resign myself to the fact that if I'm going to look like I tore someone's head from their body, that I'm going to look like I tore someone's head from their body when I meet the infamous guildmaster. I'm guessing they're used to gory sights, which is good, I suppose. Then I hear a quiet creak followed by loud footsteps, and when I turn, I find a tall figure looming over me. I know. Why? I nod and pick my jaw up off the floor. This person is striking, intimidating, and looking at me like I'm something to eat. You can call me Adri. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. They tilt their head and look me up and down, not even trying to hide the fact that they're trying to suss me out. Their gaze drags over me like a set of sharpened claws, taking me in and peeling away any remaining ounces of composure they so desperately tried to cling to. They stick their hand out and wiggle their fingers in the same way Raiden so often does. But this time, I daren't hesitate and ponder over if I should take it. It's a pleasure to meet you too. So, pausing here real quick, we've met 3 non-binary characters. Lucian, Rue, and now Adri. All different appearances, different builds, and different ethnicities, I guess you would say. I mean, Lucian is a demon, so they can pick whatever ethnicity they want for their human form, but they chose a darker skin person. Probably what we would call either from the Middle East or Latin America. And Rue, like Lucian, can also choose their appearance, but they chose to look pale and redhead. Adri does not get to pick their appearance. The developers picked this appearance for Adri. And I love it. I love that we have 3 different non-binary characters, 3 different versions of non-binary. Very different, very diverse. So I respect the hell out of that because there's too big an emphasis on the skinny white person being non-binary. Like that's the only version of non-binary that exists, and that's just not true. They drop my hand and continue to stare me down. There's no seating in this room, nothing but swords and other things you kill people with, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's entirely on purpose. I've heard a lot about you over the past few days. I see. Adri smiles, and it's the type of smile that makes your skin feel like it's on fire, and not necessarily in a good way. Though, strangely, I see a little bit of Raiden in that smile. Or, I guess Raiden has a little of Adri in his, since clearly Adri is older. We do get to see Raiden and Adri interact later on in the story. I suppose you're wondering why you were out here. I don't know if they're referring to here as in here right now, under the ground, in a pit of snakes, or if they mean in Novus in general. So, I nod. Adri's face drops back into something unreadable, impenetrable. I mean, I would be curious either way. So, yeah. In the interest of being honest, or as honest as I can be in my position, the relocation here wasn't quite as casual as it may seem. I needed someone with a fresh pair of eyes, someone who hasn't yet been tainted by the haze that surrounds Novus. They narrow their eyes before they continue, looking as tired as I feel. I no longer feel like I truly know what's going on in my own kingdom, and frankly, that scares the shit out of me. I don't like fear, not when it's mine, anyway. I've been stabbed in the back one too many times, both literally and figuratively, and this old snake is tired. There are things going on in the shadows that even I cannot see. This is why I approached your handler. The kingdom of Novus and Vithras are enemies, despite what the crown would have us believe. So who better to sniff out the rat than someone who has no true allegiance to either side? And we have cunning response for just a bland response. We're nomads, so we're going to go cunning. You didn't hesitate to hire me when you hadn't even met me. Why trust me at all? Audrey shrugs. Sometimes the stars simply align and our fates are already determined. And God sees to that, and my God has brought me many blessings in my lifetime. You may be born of Vithrian blood, but you are a wanderer, a shadow, just like the children of my guild. Nomads like yourself may have a birthplace, but they do not have a home. They are not loyal, and nor are they forgiving. This is true. They're only a Vithrian 5 or 2 of where they were born. They could just as easily have been born in Novus or some other random country. For convenience of the story, they were born in Vithras. They smile. It's almost charming. Besides, I didn't ask for anyone specific, just someone different. Suppose you were the lucky pick. So there's no shining pedestal with my name on it. Audrey snorts and then dignified laugh, and I feel my cheeks heat. No one is treated differently around here. I may detect traitors in my ranks, but I know they are still here for the betterment of the kingdom, even if we no longer see eye to eye on how such a feat is achieved. The question is, are you on board? I'm not. I'm in it already, might as well see it through, right? Good. As I said, there are things happening in Novus that even I am unaware of, and that isn't something I'm used to. I have eyes and ears everywhere. I know everything from what time the queen takes a shit to when the night commander tucks herself into bed at night, and yet there's a void. A void? Audrey hums. Like someone stuck a knife in the core of my system, a system that hasn't failed me for going on 30 years, and carved out the very thing that makes us tick. 30 years. That is a long time. Gotta respect the hell out of them for that. What would you like me to do? They sigh, fiddling with the end of their braid. I have tried a few solutions and come up short. I thought that meant that none of my snakes had betrayed me, but I'm still not so sure. I want you to work closely with Braden. Trust him with your life. His intuition rivals everyone else's, as does his skill. I can think of no better duo to assist in weeding out the rot. They tilt their heads, perhaps sensing my apprehension. Braden hasn't exactly been a loyal comrade since I met him, tricking me, serving me, acting carelessly. But the way Audrey talks about him tells me that any criticism of their favorite snake might not be welcomed so warmly, and so I'll just play along, and grin and bear it. Understood. Audrey exhales, a wide and honest grin crossing their lips. It's the first hint of a genuine expression I think I've seen since they showed up. They press a fist over their heart and salute, bowing their head. You have my gratitude. I look forward to our partnership, Nancy. Now, I must get back to work. Braden is just through that door there in the vault. You should go to him. I nod and awkwardly bow in return, earning a quiet laugh from Audrey. Ingress be with you, Shadow. The snakes and shadows. Those are interesting things. They fit. I can hear the not-too-distant sound of Raiden's voice paired with another much quieter and starless whiny one. I find myself distracted by the treasure trove that I'm suddenly surrounded by. I let my eyes wander to the litany of weird and wonderful objects that cover every surface and pour out of open cabinets and drawers. Every shelf is full to the brim. Crystals, talismans, statues, books, you name it, it's here. I wonder just how much of this stuff was taken in exchange for someone's life. Probably all of it. I walk over to a particularly interesting-looking bookcase. Gold and shiny other things that capture me and lure me in. But there's a strange painting on the wall that draws my attention over all else. The canvas is a striking deep blue, and when I look a little closer, I see that it's the ocean. It ripples like water, the paint morphing and shifting, and then I see the perfect outline of a skeleton's hand rising from the depths of the ocean floor. Its fingers splayed as though it's reaching for something, or someone. I get closer, and then I see words trying to form, letter by letter, almost as if someone is painting it before my very eyes. Excuse me. Then I hear a whisper, and I jump back, still rolling down my spine. Haunted pain. Not reassuring, but not entirely surprising either. The whining from reading continues, so I decide it's probably time to find him. He nestles in the far corner of the room, sitting upon a makeshift cot with a tiny old man fussing around him. When I approach, his face lights up. He's clearly exhausted, the blood loss and the fight catching up to him, I guess. But he's still doing everything in his power to telegraph that he wants me to believe he's just dying. He shifts to swing his legs over the edge of the pathetic little mattress, if you can even call it that, despite the vehement protest of the small mage that still seems to be trying to heal his wound. Well, look who survived the viper pit. His hair is a fluffy mess, and the grin that he displays is laced with trouble. The kind of trouble that makes me think he should have been left it for the Fae as a baby. And I think he probably was. True. How are you feeling? Better for having laid eyes on you. You have nice hands. We'd love to get stabbed around you again sometime. Yeah. Honestly, same as every other time I've been stabbed. You get kind of used to it. So, better then. He hissed through clenched teeth as the mage flexes his fingers with blue glow that emanates from his hands, pulsing brightly. The skin around the wound glistens, almost sparkles. Raiden swats him away, but the mage relents, shaking his head with a frown and a loud, disapproving click of his tongue. It looks like he wants to tell Raiden off, but doesn't. I personally wouldn't have it straight, so I'm not sure he can actually speak at all. He takes Raiden's hand and presses it to the wound, eyes wide like he's trying to convey something. The magic still lingers when he steps away, and with a pointed glare, he scurries out, the door creaking shut behind him. Mages are weird. He looks down at the wound, moving his hand away a little to get a peek, then grimaces and presses harder, the magic doing his thing and knitting him back together, I assume. He was healing you. You could stand to be a bit nicer. He shrugs, fussing with his wound still, wincing with every tiny movement. In an effort to distract him, I point at his tattoo and the red flowers that surround it. From what I've seen, that particular detail is an addition to his standard crest of the guild, setting him apart from his other comrades who bear the same emblem. Why flowers? He twists his arm awkwardly and looks down, pulling a funny face as he seems to study it, like he's forgotten it's there. Well, I always thought it was a bit boring by itself. He pauses, scratching a light blush kissing his cheek as he traces the spindly petals etched into his skin. Just outside the kingdom, there's a huge field of them that stretches for miles, but they'd only be in bloom for a few days. I used to rush out there to play in them as a kid. Sometimes I'd pick a bunch and bring them back to Adri. Didn't really know much about them back then, just that they're pretty and weird, but Adri says that it's the flower of the dead. But it's my flower. They represent the transition between light and dark, life and death. Pretty enough to lure you in, but before you can enjoy them, they're taking you by the hand and guiding you straight to hell. That's incredibly morbid. He shrugs. What I do is kind of morbid, isn't it? You really have a lot of scars, Raiden. Aren't all good assassins supposed to avoid that? No, we're supposed to avoid death. Keep up. Well, you're doing an okay-ish job so far. He laughs, wincing again when it obviously upsets his injury, and then he yawns. You should rest, and I should go do the same. He nods, but I look a little sad at the thought of the night coming to an end, despite everything that transpired. Yeah, probably a good idea. I should be good as new in the morning anyway. I stand there, rocking back and forth on my heels, realizing I have no idea how to actually leave. So, how do I get out of here exactly? Raiden takes his legs beneath him, apparently settling here in this room full of stolen things for the night. He points at the wall. But lick your finger with your dagger, and if it trusts you, it'll show you the way. It? He smiles and shrugs. The guild. Right. Magic. Gotcha. I do as I said, as Layla did, and I take my blade from my hip and press the point of it to my index finger. A droplet of blood forms on the tip, and I place my palm flat against the wall. I feel a tingle, an almost shock rolling from my fingertips all the way through my arm and up my shoulder. Then the wall lights up, and a door appears. I turn to look at Raiden and grin, pretty fucking pleased with myself. Wicked. Right? I laugh and step through, pausing to look at him over my shoulder before the door shuts behind me. That painting is haunted. I jerk my head towards the shifting canvas, and Raiden starts shrugging as he crosses his arms behind his head and falls upon the mattress. He closes his eyes. It's only blue. Good night, Raiden. He wakes me up, and in the blink of an eye, I find myself back on the streets of Novus, the sun just about to rise. Okay. I slept for a whole day, a full 24 hours of blissful, uninterrupted sleep, and now there's a red-headed bay with their nose pressed to my window, waking me from my slumber, rudely, with loud knocking. I sigh, staring up at the ceiling as I try and decide if I'm going to pretend to ignore Rue or get up. It's still early, the sun not yet fully risen, a hint of rich copper splashed across my cheek. Rue taps on the window again, fully squished against the glass to the point where the pretty face is barely distinguishable. Despite the rude awakening, I find myself smiling as I drag myself towards the door, rubbing sleep from my eyes as I go. Morning, sunshine! The door is barely open before they're pushing past me, hands on their hips as they take in their surroundings. They wiggle their nose, frowning as they spin on their heel and assess me from head to toe. You look... They sniff the air. They bled all over you then. Well, that isn't unnerving at all, but yes, he did. Rue nods enthusiastically and scoots over to my desk, poking around the papers that sit upon the surface. He says my shirt. It smells just fine. Do you know if it's okay, by the way? It's fabulous. It was just a scratch. It only wasn't just a scratch, but I can't be bothered to argue. So what do I owe the pleasure of your company? There we go. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company? Keep missing words. They're picking up one of my misses from my tiny desk, and I pull one of each side from their fingers, offering them a friendly smile as I tuck it somewhere safe. I have an invitation for you. They grin and produce a rolled-up piece of parchment tied with a navy blue ribbon. There's a tiny white feather edged with gold lace just at the center of the knot. It looks fancy. It's definitely not from the guild. For what? I reach out to take it, but Rue pulls it away, taking a smooth step backwards, gliding like a ballerina. They pound and wag a finger at me like I'm a naughty child, doing too many sweets from the jar. Ask nicely. Rue. They snort and step closer again, tapping me on the nose with the invite and curling a finger beneath my chin. Hey, chin up, dear Shadow. I can see someone isn't a morning person. They then take my hand and lay the parchment in my palm, pushing at my fingers until they curl around it. It's from Ray. He's a little weary still, so he asked me to deliver it. I quirk an eyebrow at them as I tug on the end of the ribbon, the bow unraveling and the neatly rolled parchment falling open. My eyes immediately fall to the wax seal at the foot of the invite, the seal of the palace of Novus. I've been invited to an official palace event. Rue laughs heartily, taking advantage of my momentary distraction and beginning to poke around my room again. I pull a dagger from my weapon chest and swing it around with little to no coordination. A light flashes before my eyes as they step close. Doubt it. He probably stole it from someone important. Of course he did. Well, a change of scenery would be nice, I guess. I set the invite aside and pry the dagger from Rue's trembling hands before they hurt themselves. So I'm sure they're probably quite adept with a blade, despite looking like they've never held one in their life. I then guide them over to the bed, the only comfortable surface in this tiny home, and I sit down in Pet's space beside me. They politely oblige. I eye Rue carefully. They know Raiden better than anyone, I assume, and their gods know how old and why. So, can I ask you about the guild? Their head walls toward me dramatically, their big brown eyes wide as they glare up at me through the copper lashes. They just stare, like they're trying to get right inside my brain. Is that a no? Rue relaxes and sighs heavily, fiddling with the long loose thread that hangs from the hem of their shirt. With a brush of their elegant fingertips and the tiniest glimmer of magic, the thread dissolves into nothing. I don't think about that stuff. I know that sounds silly, but it isn't real if I don't think. I care about Ray too much to think about what dangerous things he does or where he goes. And now I have another wayward soul to care about, in you. They open their mouth and take a deep breath, frowning as they apparently second-guess whatever it is they're about to say. Is that silly? So, we have a clear option. We're going to take it. I sighed, feeling guilty. I asked, I know better. Rue is a kind soul, not one for gossip, especially when it comes to Raiden, who they clearly care for a great deal. Well, it just so happens that I care about you, too. So, no, it isn't silly. You care for me? I place my hand upon my thigh, palm up, and I wiggle my fingers in invitation. Rue smiles and slides their hand into mine, their expression going soft. Well, yeah, what's there not to care about? You. They wrinkle their nose and poke out their tongues, saying in disgust. That's well, sappy. The weak devils tells me they're not so put off by the idea. When I mock offense and try to pull my hand from theirs, they giggle, leaning in to wrap their other arm around me to keep me in place, their head resting against my shoulder. Their hair smells like flowers. Of course, it's Rue. Just kidding, it's nice to be cared about. They relax against me, and I melt against them in return, breathing them in and feeling like maybe I can't hate early mornings if they're inflicted by Rue. We sit like that for a moment, a comfortable silence between us, and then with a hug, Rue sits straight and stares down at our joined hands. They smile and give me a squeeze, and they let go. I stand and take another look at the invitation. The show's within 2 days, and I wonder if I can get some more blissful peace before that. A day spent with Raiden among pal stars is surely going to be eventful. Rue sneaks up behind me and reaches over my shoulder to flick the page. You gonna go? I think I might not have a choice. Think about saying something about magic, but refrain, remembering what they said about their distaste for discussing such things. I bite my tongue and set the invitation back down. Rue heads for the door and yanks it open, hovering on the stoop and basking in the sun, staring at me pointedly like they're waiting for me to say something. You haven't heard anything about, the attempted murder of the monarch, have you? Very smooth. I am known for my subtlety. They sigh and pick at the door frame, peeling off the splinter and inspecting it with intense scrutiny. I've heard things, whispers, but nothing from anyone I could point you in the direction of. Whispers? Can't really explain it myself. Something new, different. I'm keeping my ears to the ground. They wiggle, said ears. They would. Mrs. Rue. There's I have hair getting in my way. Thanks, Rue. Oh, one more thing. You never told me what flowers you like. So, something yellow, something red, something white. We're going to go with that one. You like white flowers? They smiled, tapping their finger to their chin. I think daisies. They're a sacred bloom, despite people thinking they're weak sometimes. We snorted. Next time I'm in the gardens, I'll get you some, alright? Mrs. Lindsay pointed at the invite where it sits on my desk. Have fun. See you around. I watched them go, seeing a group of 3 street kids skidding around the corner and taking chase, giggling when Ruth spins and sticks the tongue out at them. Before I close my door, I see them summoning a yellow flower, cradling it gently in their palms, as the kids look on with wide eyes. Oh, I'm no good with kids. My heart. I am once again standing around, waiting for Raiden to show up. I can feel nothing but dread over what might transpire today. Feel none the wiser about exactly why we're apparently infiltrating an official palace event. It's also horrifically early in the morning, and I'm fucking miserable because of it. I hear rushed footsteps and turn to find him running full speed at me, skidding to a stop and kicking up dust, where he reaches out a hand and gives me the trademark Raiden finger wiggle. Come on, got a carriage to catch. Carriage? He nods his head and shifts from foot to foot, doing nothing to quell my unease. Is it best that I don't ask questions? Isn't it always? Glad you're finally catching on. Now let's dash. And of course, we're going to take the third option. I take his hand and am immediately yanked forward. I have no choice but to fall into step with him as he makes a mad dash through town, cutting through alleyways too slim for 2 bodies to really fit. He keeps smiling at me over his shoulder, though, and it's infectious. I quickly find myself enjoying the way the breeze feels cool against my skin and the way his cheek dimples when he looks at that cheek. Now that looks familiar. If anyone were to ask me how I ended up in a carriage and halfway to some fancy event that I definitely don't belong at, I wouldn't be able to tell them. What I do know, however, is that Raiden could probably sleep anywhere. We've been traveling for at least 2 hours already, and he passed out the second the door closed and he sat on the plush cushions. My backside has never been so comfortable. It's a bumpy ride enough to make me feel like I might vomit, and yet there he is, sleeping like a baby. My brother's the same way. He can sleep, he just falls asleep so easily in the car. Not me. I can't. I have to be really, really tired. I sigh and look out of the window, hoping it might calm me if I look at some scenery, but endless fields of green really aren't that interesting to me. Nope, miles and miles of miles. I close my eyes instead, willing the rocking of the carriage and the sound of wheels turning and hooves beating against the grinding road to soothe me into slumber. Eventually, it does. Quite different from the conversations that came back during an iPad and during their carriage rides. After a few hours of riding in the carriage, we finally arrived at the location of the joust, a nondescript field that's basically in the middle of nowhere. There's a palpable excitement buzzing in the air, and this isn't exactly the Novus I've become used to, but something a little more refined, with rough around the edges. As I took a seat next to Raiden upon one of the benches that overlooked the arena, I can't help but think about what Layla said about him the other night. The length of the list of benches on this one's head is longer than a month. He's a wanted man, 10 times over. I glare at him and his ridiculous hair that's the brightest thing here, even among all of the gaudy silk and shiny jewels that drip off the majority of the spectators like melted gold. Now there's an image. He sticks out like a sore thumb, and at the dozen of wanted posters I've seen plastered around town or anything to go by, I'd say he's a pretty well known and detested. Don't you know a mage that can spell your hair a less obvious color or something? He shrugs, not even bothering to ask me why. I assume he knows he's practically a walking target. Funnily enough, that's why it's like this. He grabs the lock of his hair, one of the wavy bits that stops over his brow, and gives it a yank. Why am I not surprised? Aren't you going to ask me how it happened? It's a good one. Go on. He cracks his neck and grins, flashing his white teeth. He's practically vibrating. Right, so I was just finishing up this job, just a standard get in, steal something, get out. I think I was about 14? And they didn't tell me the house belonged to a maid, so I didn't really have my guard up or anything, and she appears from nowhere. He places a hand on my shoulder and squeezes, staring me dead in the eye. Literally nowhere. Puff of smoke, and bam, she's there. He drops his hand and shudders. He really doesn't like magic, which is weird considering he's just fine with stealing and stabbing. But yeah, magic isn't weird. Stealing and stabbing is pretty straightforward. Magic? Not straightforward. So I grab the artifact and run, and I'm fast, but not as fast as magic, apparently. His fingers are back in his hair, rustling it until it's nice and messy. She zapped me as I was sliding through the window as this happened. Lucky she missed all my other parts. I tried to think what her goal was. Imagine she was aiming for something much more important than your hair. He chuckles and shudders dramatically, like someone just dragged icy claws down his spine. I roll my eyes and try not to be amused by his theatrics. I'm going soft. Mages creep me out. Magic isn't normal, is it? You've said that before. Anyway, you're not normal either. Touché. We sit in silence for a bit, watching the stable hands parading the horses around the arena at the standstill, both man and beast looking miserable in the midday sun that beats down upon us all. Raiden has decided that jiggling his leg will apparently make time pass a little quicker, and I wonder how quickly I'll lose my mind if I just let him continue. I'm obviously going to take the third option. I reach out without really thinking about what I'm doing and splaying my palm on his thigh and giving it a firm squeeze. He yelps, the noise filtering into a weird, gleeful giggle. I lock eyes with him, not really knowing what the fuck to do, my hand frozen around firm muscle. Wow, really firm. Easy! His tone is laced with accusation, but his face says all I need to know. The bastards liked it. Will you please just sit still? I thought we were supposed to blend in. I am blending, am I not? Taking the whole stand with your leg is hardly being subtle. Can't help but have powerful thigh snatching. I move to pull my hand away, but he slaps his own down on top of it, keeping me in place. Leaving so soon, I might start twitching again. I let out a sorrowful groan, finding it hard to stop a smile from infecting my face when he starts laughing like the cat that got the fucking cream. Stop! He releases me and I finally remove my hand. I I turn my eyes towards the stands on the other side of the small area, scanning for some familiar faces. I spot them almost immediately, unsurprisingly. Marta and Lucian are nestled among the other nobility, facing directly in front of the barriers, the best seats in the house. I then see the Victorian ambassador sitting pride of place beside them. It's nice in the seats and not have splinters sticking into your backside. So why are we here exactly? Raiden is craning his neck. I think it's supposed to be neck. Trying to get a look at something I can't make out. He's frowning and acting incredibly shifty, more so than usual, which is an impressive feat. He doesn't look at me when he speaks. Oh, just a bit of fun in it. A day out, keep you out of trouble and whatnot. I don't believe him. I don't believe you. When the crowd begins to clap, a son of participating knight steps forward, his gauntleted fist raised in the air to call their attention. I gather he gets a kick out of it if his smug grin is any indicator. He has a very punchable face. Raiden obviously agrees, groaning and rolling his eyes as his shoulders slump, his mouth twisting into an unbecoming pout. Not this fucking guy again. Who is he? His name is Sir Roland, and he's a tosser and a half. That name sounds familiar? I might continue talking, but I suddenly find my attention fixed elsewhere in a big way. Lydia. She stands slowly, as smooth as silk, and even from here, I can see the pinch in her brow. She's staring directly at Sir Roland, and if looks could kill, he'd be ash. Her fist rises to match his, and they're locked in a death stare. If I was him, I'd back down, because I could feel the chill of her gaze from all the way over here in this shit seat. Raiden has to laugh beside me, clearly just as transfixed as I am. He looks so different now, back in familiar territory, clad in that obsidian armor that shines in the midday sun, her cape fluttering ominously on the gentle breeze. This isn't the quiet woman I encountered the other night, not by a long shot. The rolling withers and I just smile. I find myself smiling too. Come on. Here we go. Time for the fun part. Noticing with his elbow, his leg twitching again, but I'm too interested in what's transpiring in front of us that I can't find it in me to be annoyed. Esteemed guests, I welcome you here today to take part in our event, a diversion of good faith between allies and comrades. We hope that you are in good health and that our coming together provides you with the assurance that our friendship is everlasting. Please welcome our combatants to the field. Her voice is commanding and steady, and she's truly a sight to behold. It's intriguing to finally see the true force of her presence. Well, everyone watches her. A true knight, if I ever saw one. Yes, I have a crush on Livia. What of it? The rules are simple. Strike true at your opponent and unseat them from their horse. Should instead their lance shatter on your own, then the same condition applies. The same wind condition applies. Or was I getting with? If your horse falls with you and you still manage to best your opponent off of theirs, then the wind falls to you. The crowd claps again, obtaining cheers spreading throughout the stands as the steeds are led into the arena by the knight squires, one white, one black. I think that's the same as what she said in the next chapter. I don't remember. It was a week ago. Do you expect me to remember? Lastly, there will be no bloodshed. The terms of the joust will not resolve in slaughter. We needn't kill our allies during a show of togetherness. Neither would defeat the point of the show of togetherness. This is the first real look I've had at the Victorian Knight, and though I can't really get a decent look at their face from here, they seem confident and eager to climb onto their mount and get this thing over with. The squire hands him their lance and shield, and Livia raises her voice to give her final order. With the rules clear, combatants, ready yourselves. So that's the other infamous Victorian then. Met with silence, which is worrying, and when I turn to Knight Raiden for his response, all I find is an NPC. Remember, Raiden was the one who gave the Victorian Knight their lance? Of course. You're for fun, he said. I should have known. I look around, scanning the crowd both here and where the palace are stationed, and it's then that I see him on the fucking jousting ground, staring up at the Victorian Knight as they pry their equipment from his hands. Before I can even think about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, I'm darting out of my seat and heading around the back of the stalls. I get closer and closer to the colorful tent set up near the tree line, swelling guards and other intimidating-looking figures blocking my path. Not that they'd be able to stop me if I had even a semblance of a plan or any idea what my goal is here, which I don't. I just know I need to find the snake and shake him until he tells me why the hell he brought me here and proceeded to piss off. Then I wonder if he means to kill that night or if he was simply fucking around. The latter. Either way, neither is good. Looking for someone? I turn quickly, my hand dipping beneath my cloak, and reach for my weapon out of pure instinct. When I find blue eyes staring back at me, I curl the fingers that just barely brush the hilt of my dagger into a fist. Lady Masha. His eyes slip down to my waist, my hovering hand, and Masha quirks an accusatory brow before her gaze ever so slowly rises to my startled face. I do hope you aren't thinking of using that on me. I quickly drop both of my hands to my side, my eyes wide as I try to process that it definitely looks like I was about to shank the Grand Archmage. A slow smile breaks out on Masha's face. I would never, my lady. I'm just snooping around where you most certainly shouldn't be. Again, I got my mouth shut and decided it's probably best I don't even bother to concoct a lie to respond with. Maybe I most definitely am. Well, yeah, kind of. Then she grins, apparently entertained by the fact that I actually told the truth. I can honestly no longer tell if she's more amused at me being shady or being honest. You seem to be in a rush. Is there something I can help you with? We can go for the diplomatic approach or the cunning approach. We're a nomad. We're gonna go with cunning. I could lie, but I think she's kind of sick of me by now. I'd quite like to stay, maybe get on her good side, so I turn to good old-fashioned avoidance. Are you not enjoying the event? Masha tips her head curiously. Is it that obvious? I gesture to where we stand, the muddy entrance to the woodland on one side and a mossy brick wall on the other. Surely a lady of your station wouldn't be back here with the likes of me if you were interested in the activities in the arena. She narrows her eyes, for her lips work into a sly smile. You're right about that. I'm just terribly bored of it all. She gestures flippantly. This is such a trek from the palace, too. I grimace and try not to think about the carriage. Surely they can't force you to attend. Her laugh is loud and sharp. I don't have to, no, but it does make my life easier if I do. The gossip would be unbearable if I were to skip such an event even once. It's truly just easier to grin and bear it. Besides, her gaze falls to one of the tents behind me, and I turn, spying a figure clad in rich crimson and gold. There's something off about him, something I can't quite put my finger on. He turns, almost as if he heard me, and his piercing, somewhat startlingly familiar blue eyes meet mine. Then I realize it isn't me he's looking at. No, he's looking right through me, looking at Masha. Who could this be? I turn back to her, she's locked and stare off at the stranger. There are certain characters present that I must keep my eye on. And of course, okay, so that other gentleman, that other figure, that was definitely Nazer. I don't think we actually talked to him though. I can practically feel anger beginning to roll off of her posture tense. I hate to see her like it, so I decide to lighten the mood. And am I one of those people, my lady? Her gaze just back to me slowly. Would you like to be? I laugh, stepping closer, close enough that no one who dares to eavesdrop would be able to hear. I very much like if you were to keep your eyes on me, lovely as they are. Her smile is sly, but the silence between us hangs heavy, the air seeming to bend and twist around us as I wait to see if my boldness has been appreciated. Masha is all sharp answers and cutting stares, and being this close in proximity to her, an event such as this reminds me of just how different we are. But that just makes me want to get to know her all the more. Masha isn't like the other nobles I've encountered in my lifetime. She seems more full of life and doesn't seem to hold herself in such high regard. I gravitate towards her whether I try to or not. My eyes are on you, Nathan. Now what? I tentatively reach out and take her hand, my eyes on her face the whole time, waiting for even the slightest indication that she isn't okay with this. She stares me down, and it feels like a dare. Her skin is warm and soft, and I bring her knuckles to my lips. Her bracelets clinking quietly. I smile at the way her breath audibly kicks as I press a kiss there. Her cheeks darken, and I bask in the sight and everything about this moment before I guide her hand back to her side and release her. My fingers brush against hers one last time before I pull away. Oh my gosh, that image is just gorgeous. Oh. Is that it? Her voice is low, another dare. Then she grins wide and wicked, her cheeks still kiss pink. a sight to behold. I knew you were trouble the first moment I laid eyes on you. I'm glad to see I've been proven right. I grinned right back, my heart pounding in my chest. Really, that a chaste kiss pressed to a lady's knuckles would make me feel such a way, and yet here we are. And I do hope I continue to prove you right, my lady. Masha leans in and lays her hand upon my forearm. Please, call me Masha. I nod. Yes, Masha. She chuckles. Very good. I take a deep breath as she steps away, feeling like I've been holding it this whole time, and now it's my turn to blush from the simple praise. She seems incredibly smug about it. Before I can strike up further conversation, I see Raiden out the corner of my eye, and he's heading straight for one of the tents. I hear no screaming, so I assume he hasn't straight up assassinated anyone out in the open, but I still find myself growing tense. I try to keep my cool so I don't make it obvious I'm itching to follow him where I probably shouldn't. Leaving so soon? But Masha's far wiser woman than I gave her credit for. I should... She wakes me off. Yes, go on. I shall pretend I didn't see you. That gives me pause. I want to ask her why, but I remember our first conversation back in the church, and then I also think of Eric. These people who are, by all means, an integral part of the kingdom, who help it take and care for it more than most, and yet they're willing to overlook the deeds of a person like myself, without question. I could see how they would have been a good match, I suppose. Before I could stop myself the words, the barley olive eyes are falling from my lips. You remind me of him, of Eric. Her eyes widen for a beat before she shakes off her shock and fixes me with a hard glare. Whatever implored you to say that? My eyes flip to the tent again, and I can no longer see any trace of Raiden, but my gut tells me I'll know exactly where to go. You both seem to want to do the right thing, even if you don't really know what that is. Sorry, I shouldn't have. She shakes her head and curls her fingers around my wrist, squeezing gently and leaning in as if she's about to share a secret meant for me and me alone. Forgive me my brief moment of weakness. I know I shouldn't cry. I lost such privileges. I just want to know he's okay. She looks away, squeezing her eyes shut for a brief moment before she gathers her wavering emotion. She still cares about him. Oh, the pain, the angst. Oh. In the blink of an eye, she's back to the smiling, composed Masha I'm accustomed to, but with an edge of sadness she can do little to hide. It's okay as you can be. I nod, and she releases me, awaiting my response. I don't know much, not yet, but as okay as you can be, like you said. She exhales sharply and forces a smile. I watch the bob of her throat as she swallows, and she slowly steps away, back towards the stance from where she came. I could pass on a message. No! She catches herself, pressing her fingers to her lips, as though she's shocked she displayed such emotion. Then she clears her throat, brushing down the front of her dress. No, that won't be necessary. I take her hand again, giving it a reassuring squeeze and offering her as earnest a smile as I can muster. I look forward to us crossing paths again, Masha. She watches as I lean in and press yet another kiss to her knuckles. Let it be in a less suspicious manner next time, perhaps. A shadow can dream, and a shadow also knows where to find me. I turn on my heel and I can feel her watching me leave. I cast her a glance over my shoulder, and the wind she throws me leaves me feeling warm, maybe even a little fuzzy. I bow politely, stepping back and back. Her brow quirks as she watches me, but she doesn't say another word before she turns, heading back to her place in the crowd, I assume. When I know I'm truly not being watched, I round the corner quickly before any of the looming guards can even dream of catching me. I'm immediately hit by an interesting, if not slightly unnerving, sight. They're huddled close, the demon whispering in the assassin's ear, and I feel very much like I've just walked in on something terrible and nefarious being planned. Lucian sees me before Raiden does, their silver eyes catching mine as I stand and stare at them. They smile, letting him continue to talk animatedly. All three of them, Lucy. Then, are you even listening to me? They take his chin between the gilded forefinger and thumb, turning his face before staring straight at me. Right at me. I can see the sharp claws of the jewelry that adorns their fingers digging into his tawny skin, but Raiden seems unbothered. I am, but so is our friend. Now that looks familiar. Raiden's eyes grow wide for a second when he spots me, and he swats Lucian's hand away, leaning defiantly against the trunk of a tree as Lucian reaches out, beckoning me. Join us, won't you, Marjorie? I take a deep breath and step forward as if compelled, Lucian's velvety voice luring me in. Raiden winks at me as I get closer, not a care in the world, but he dishes me once again. I scowl at him and he merely grins. Don't hold it against me, it wasn't personal. Lucian lays a hand upon his shoulder. You can blame me for his desertion. I open my mouth, but Lucian raises their fingers, slowly wagging it from side to side. This time. The others are solely his fault. Throw me under the wagon again. Go on. Gladly. Swiftly realizing I haven't said a damn thing since I approached them, I shake myself back into reality and step close to Raiden. Why did you appear in the dancing field in plain sight, and why are you conspiring with the demon behind the tent? Lucian quirks one of those condescending brows at me, their eyes the same kind of gray as a sky full of thunder, just barely holding back a storm. I look at Raiden and he touches me a careless smile. He looks tired, strained, not like himself. It makes something inside me churn. We should go, Natrin. I sighed loudly, still looking between him and Lucian, still wondering if I should even bother trying to ask what they were up to, and I know I'll just be brushed off with a chuckle and a smile. Raiden steps forward and rests his hand upon my shoulder as Lucian falls from his. We need to catch a carriage. Natri entrusted me with weeding out the rot, and this situation stinks of it. So, even if it wasn't the cunning option, I would totally act it. I stand my ground. Are you going to tell me what you were discussing? Raiden frowns, looking at the ground, which has apparently just become incredibly interesting. Lucian steps forward again, still exuding that air of calm and mystery that they manage so well. They open their mouth to respond, but Raiden raises his hand, giving them pause. They don't seem impressed, but they give him the floor. Some things are better left unsaid, and I need you to trust me when I say this particular thing is one of them. How am I supposed to trust you when you tell me nothing? And he looks at Lucian with a sheepish glance before his eyes roll back to my face. I'm trying to protect you. I shake my head, feeling frustration boiling and bubbling deep in my gut. We're supposed to be a team. How can I trust you when you keep evading me? He looks away. Things are shifting within the kingdom, things even I don't understand. Raiden and I are merely trying to put our finger on what those things could be. Let me help. That's what I'm here for, is it not? The hand that Raiden rests on my shoulder twitches, grasps into a squeeze before he drops it back to his side, still avoiding my gaze. Then, with a quiet, muttered apology, he leaves. Quicker than I can expect him. You see, Raiden is fine. He simply has a lot on his mind. Between you and me, I think it's strange for him to adjust to having a partner in crime. I raise my brows at the play on words. Literally. Yes. Had to get that in there. There's been no crime yet, I'll have you know. Lucian laughs. No trespassing on royal property or murderous encounters in the sewers, then? I tap my chin, feigning ignorance. Must have been someone else. Besides, I wasn't the one wielding the daggers on that last one. They hum, their amusement clear. Spy in denial, such a beautiful sight. I like you, Natrin, and I like Raiden too, so I will ask that you just learn to trust him. Put your faith, if you have any, in him. You may end up being the only thing that each other has at some point, and thrown into peril, and I'd much rather be on his side than on the end of his dagger. So, of course, we're going to pick this apart. You're not concerned about what I do with my daggers? They raise their brows at me, the one that they seem to fit their brow, not brows, brow. The one that seems to favor when I'm used or scrutinizing something, which is often. Lucian laughs, and I can't help but be transfixed by them. They're beautiful, alluring in a way a deadly flower is, and I can't decide if I want to touch or run. It's delightful and refreshingly honest, even if you don't mean to be. I smile at them and will my cheeks not to heat. Making Lucian laugh like that is something I'd like to become quite good at. I really don't intend to be, but if it means making me smile like that, then I'll endeavor to try a little harder in the future, Ambassador. They fold their bottom lip between their teeth, and I think about their glamour, about how their teeth really look under this facade of humanity. Then they're stepping forward to rest a hand upon my forehead, the gold of their jewelry cool against my skin. I can feel warmth radiating off them in waves thanks to their close proximity. With a calculated dip of their long lashes and a sly smile, they lean a little closer, their lips brushing my ear. My heart kicks in my chest. Then I look forward to our next encounter. Maybe then you'll be able to demonstrate your progress. Maybe you'll even be able to make me blush. They reach up with their free hand to drag a knuckle over my cheek, feather light. I shudder. Lucian, blush. I'm not sure that's possible. I swear I could feel their magic in the wake of their touch, even when they withdraw. It's like a warm breeze kissing my skin, strange and almost electric buzz. I try my best. They step away, their hand lingered upon my arm for just a moment before they were standing before me like nothing happened. Anyway, you should be going. Don't want to miss your illegally acquired carriage ride home now, do you? I grimace and think that maybe Raiden will just leave without me, truly abandon me in the middle of nowhere. I think you're probably right. We stand in awkward silence for a moment. Well, awkward on my part. I don't think Lucian even knows the meaning of the word. Absolutely everything they do or say is with the utmost confidence. Then finally they smile and politely extend a hand, a long finger pointing in the direction of the tent. That way. I nod my thanks and take a step back, readying myself to make as swift an exit from this ridiculous event as I possibly can. But before I go, I offer Lucian a coy smile and try my best to convey that I fully intend to follow through on my earlier suggestion. So the next time we see each other, you're expecting me to what? Bring flowers? Lucian inclines her head and pushes her lips in full contemplation before they break out into a wolfish grin. I'm not expecting anything. I much prefer surprises. There goes that brow again, but this time arched in a much more suggestive manner if my eyes don't deceive me. Can't say I'm mad about it. Noted. See you around, Lucy. Their expression tells me they didn't expect me to use a nickname, the one I'd forbidden use with a strange tinge of affection. So I think they like it, something sparkling in their stormy gaze. See you around. I can feel them watching me when I turn, as they always seem to be doing. I pick up my pace and head for the carriages. After 10 minutes of wandering around aimlessly, I'm lost, and the universe truly likes to play cruel games with me. I know that's true because I just turned a corner that I'm pretty sure I've already traced past 4 or 5 times by now, and I find myself face to face with Livia Vasile. Livia Vasile, Knight Commander, and apparently Raven Whisperer. So, we get this BG in all 3 routes. Obviously, slightly different context. What do we have here? If a glare could make someone's heart explode, then I think she'd probably be the one to invent it. I glance between her and the blackbird that's happily perched upon her shoulder, its beady eyes scrutinizing me in a way that makes me think it was my flesh. It wants my flesh. Lady Vasile, what a lovely surprise! She produces a tiny tube of what looks like cheese and grasps it between the clawed tips of her gauntlet, handing it to the raven, who eagerly takes it and swallows it whole. It squawks loudly, ruffling its feathers before it takes flight with one flap of its huge wings. Livia smiles, watching it go, and then her expression filters into something a little less friendly when her gaze falls to me. Listen to where the spies are on the guest list. And with that, I think my heart actually does explode. She tilts her head to the side, narrowing her eyes. You are a spy, are you not? Or at least something akin to a spy, anyway. Something slippery. I stare at her slack-jawed and can't seem to find it in me to do anything other than lie. Sadly. I'm not? She raises a singular brow, the one essentially that she favors when she's about to drop a line that'll make you shake in your bones loose. Extra stout, far cleverer spies than these. Please, try and fool me. I'd love to see what tricks you have up your sleeve. So, flirt. Of course. So you were just humoring me the other night? I sighed and pressed my palm to my chest, clutching at my shirt dramatically. And here I was, thinking we had something special. Livia straightens up, her eyes going wide before she averts her gaze, and her cheeks turn a delightful shade of dusky rose. Your jokes will not soften my resolve, Nazarene. You were trespassing an official royal event. Oh, now she means business. Who said anything about jokes? Is it so terrible if I enjoyed getting to know you? Then she scoffs, her smile dripping with sarcasm. I suspect she's the type that plays with her food, and right now I'm on the menu. Seeing her like this is nice, in her comfort zone. She may be in armor physically, but her guard is down, at least certainly more so than it was at the market. I caught you the moment I laid eyes on you. Can't help myself when I smile at her, knowing her words aren't supposed to be complimentary, but I myself think it anyway. I don't doubt that for a second. I was dumb to think I could fool a woman like you. A woman like me? What's that supposed to mean? I certainly don't mean that in an offensive way, my lady. I merely say that you're impressive. You're young and hold such a high station. You're smart and, well, if you don't mind me saying, quite beautiful. If there was a wall behind me, she'd be pinning me to it with nothing but a stare. But she's blushing again, so I think I nailed it. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, but again, you cannot get out of this with pretty words. I can assure you my words are nothing but honest. I watched the steady bob of her throat as she swallows, and I realized she might not be used to being complimented. She's intimidating, but I think it's a form of self-preservation. Something that she thinks she has to exude to get people to take her seriously. It's a crime if no one tells her how beautiful she is, and I'm more than happy to make up for the pretty words she's deserving of has clearly been lacking. Right, well, thank you, I think. There's plenty more where those came from, if you're alright with that, of course. She raises her fist to her mouth and clears her throat. Quite cute and strange seeing her flustered. That won't be necessary right now. Maybe another time. Ooh, yes. Back to her. Oh, she didn't say no. Now, can you tell me how you managed to even get in here? Telling the truth would be smart. I have more important matters to attend to. I pat down my pockets and thanked the stars I kept hold of my invite, expecting Raiden to have stolen it from me when I wasn't looking, just so he could twist the proverbial knife on this shitstorm of a day a little harder. I present her the invite, and she takes it with a hint of thinly veiled skepticism, reluctant to give it all her attention, her gaze flicking between me and the piece of parchment. Am I supposed to believe you inquired this honestly? I shrugged. Do you prove that I didn't? Livia shoves the invite back into my hands and rolls her eyes. I think she's bored of me. If you weren't already on your way out of here, I suggest that you make that your top priority. Understood? Yes, Knight Commander. I bow and pocket the invite, trying my hardest not to be smug to have gotten away with it. I'm actually thankful that Raiden wasn't with me. I can't imagine they get along. Oh no, I doubt it very much. If she'd even let him utter a word before she'd press her blade to his throat. I'll be seeing you around. For your sake, I hope not. You wound me again? I think she might have just growled. I'm going. I bow again, throwing her my best apologetic but slightly cheeky smile. I'm leaving, promise. She watches as I turn and walk away, and I daren't turn around to check, making sure I'm out of her sight before I take pause. I sit in the carriage and rest my head against the window, watching the sun settle upon the edge of the horizon, ready to do a disappearing act, and dip below the rolling green hills until morning. Everything seems a little less attractive in the dark, a little more sinister. Raiden didn't wait for me. I don't want to think too hard about what that might mean. Okay, so we've talked to Raiden several times because duh. We talked to Rue, we talked to Masha, we talked to Lucian, we talked to Olivia. We're just missing Eric. Here we go. I get to the Pauper's Car much later than anticipated after the painfully slow journey home, but thankfully the man I was hoping to bump into is exactly where I expect him to be. I stand next to his table, and though he doesn't bother to turn and see who joins him, his lips curl up at one corner and tells me he's well aware it's me. So, about that drink? He clutches the bottle he's holding a little tighter before he brings it to his mouth, wrapping his lips around it and gulping down the dregs. He sets the now empty bottle down with a slam, exhaling loudly before he finally makes eye contact with me. Smiling fluctuated and his cheeks are flushed. I gather he's been at it a while. So before we continue, in the night route, they encountered Eric outside the Pauper's Crag. And he mentioned having been talking to a friend who kind of poked at some wounds, and he did a lot of talking. You're buying, right? I stare at him. You said you were buying. I scoff and leave him off. Of course I am, I keep my word, always. Now he's the one scoffing. Right, sure. And dragons don't eat their young. They do that? He shrugs. I roll my eyes and grab his empty bottle, shaking it and tipping it upside down. I squint and make a show of checking it's definitely empty. He's unamused. Same again? He shrugs again, leaning back and folding his arms over his broad chest. Surprise me. I head for the bar and order him a sensible tankard of ale, not keen on spending the coin on whatever this mildly expensive looking poison he loves is. Nor do I want him to be completely squashed when I thought him about his tragic past. And for me, we'll go with ale. Place empty bottle in the bar and grin at Nemesis. I'll have 2 tankards of ale, please. Careful, he can put away enough to sink a horse and still walk straight. I give Nemesis my coin and she hands over the goods, eyeing me like she's dying to ask me how I convinced him to drink with me. I head for the table, drinks in hand, and all the eyes in the tavern burning into my back. I ignore it and the echo of Rue telling me I need to keep a low profile that rattles around in my brain. Eric's amber eyes light up when I slide into the seat opposite him, and he eagerly reaches for the drink, shoves it between his gloved palms. So, what do you want to know? Straight to it? No banter about the weather or asking me how my day was? He stops. I know you didn't ask me here to chat about the bloody weather of all things. Well, the weather is terrible and far too hot, and maybe I did bring you here to chat about things. Things? He leans forward, propping his bearded chin up with his hand, and he's grinning, amused by my fumbling. Go on, then. I smile and mimic him, clumping my elbow on the table, my face in my hands. How do you get your hair to be so shiny? Then he laughs, a real, genuine laugh. He's a bit of a mess, a bit broken, but he's lovely. Magic. Next question. I want to cut to the chase, so I do. Tell me what happened to you. So we did get part of the story from Maja as the ambassador. And I'm really going to Eric side of the story. His smile fades and his next sigh is heavier. He drags his hand over his face and then stares me dead in the eyes, something earnest about the way he's looking at me. I wonder if he's going to tell me the truth. Then he raises his glass and his brows with it, nodding his head towards my drink. I mimic him, clicking our ales to drink together. I can't read, I promise. For the kingdom, right? Then he drinks, knocking it back in one. Nemesis is there with a refill for him before I've even taken a sip of mine. A good woman. With a name like Nemesis, I'm not inclined to disagree with you. He laughs again, but it's not genuine, not reaching his eyes. Remind me again why you want to hear this, just so I know why I'm splitting a vein for you. So, to be tactful, you can expect one of those. I don't like to go tactful because it really is the way my Nomad thinks. It's clear he is not a bad person. Because I don't think you're a bad person. The opposite of it, actually. And I think you've been wronged. If the rumors are true, I want to know why. You and me both, Mastery. Then Eric gets straight to the heart of it. No fucking around. That night, we didn't know what we were heading into. We weren't prepared. Not as much as we should have been, anyway, when I look back. It was me and 12 of my best knights, the finest in Novus, the finest in all of Errantus, actually. Good men and women who would lay down their lives for me if I asked. We were told that there were bandits in one of the haunted towns, Amaya, that we needed to clear out, a nasty group that had been terrorizing travelers. He growled low under his breath. A red flag, a sign I should have caught. You don't send your knight commander on a job like that, and you certainly don't tell him to take his finest along for the ride. Who gave the order? The king himself said it was important to him, played to my affection for him and the queen, at least, I think. Could have been sincere. Can't find it in me to care anymore. Why would such a trivial thing be important to him? He hates things he doesn't understand. The haunted towns are harmless enough if left alone. The spirits that linger there can't do anything if there's no one around to disturb them. But check some idiot bandits into the mix and all sorts can happen. He waves a hand in the air, a bored gesture. Possession, resurrection, starts back. So I agree, not thinking much of it. It was a quiet night, nothing better to do, but there's something severe about him now. From the pinch in his brow to the way his mouth twists, his jaw clenched, his hand balled into his fist, I worry he might slip the tankards he's grasping in too. We get there, and there were no bandits. There's nothing. And then the air was thick with it, with the scent of death and magic. 5 of my knights were dead before we even had the chance to unsheathe our blades. The forest was alight around us, and I just stood there. All I could think was how glad I was that Livia wasn't there. She begged me to let her come, and stormed off when I said no. I was just thinking about that. I was like, Livia's your successor. Why wasn't she with you? That's why she's the successor, not say one of the other fighting knights. chuckled. His fondness for her shine through an abundance, quite the morbid bug this morning. And I thought of Masha. I didn't say goodbye to her properly before I left. She was in some council meeting, one of the important ones that lasts all day at night. And I wondered if that was on purpose, too. I wanted to reach out to him and tell him he's okay, but I'm not sure that he is. This is painful to hear, and I fear we haven't even gotten to the worst of it yet. Then it was just fire and fury, like I snapped back into my body and locked my mind. I watched them all falling around me. I couldn't even see what was killing them or how. I just saw bodies and blood, her screaming, heard my name. Then he looked me dead in the eyes, and everything stopped, and I was the only one left alive. I was bleeding, but I don't remember being hit. The fire was gone, snuffed out like someone had clipped their fingers and extinguished it. No trace of who or what did it. He shakes his head, running his hand through his hair. I could see that it trembled. It was magic, of that much I'm sure, but not the kind that I felt like I could handle. I've arrested plenty of rogue witches in my day, taken a zap or five to the arse, but this was something dark, something different. For some reason, those words make me shudder, like deja vu washing over me. Something we never stood a chance against, and I think they knew. They accused me of treason, so there was nothing to show that I didn't kill my knights myself, that I could have lost it and gone mad like people often do in those forsaken places. Eric brings a big fist down upon the table, intrigued with the force of it. I noticed how tightly his skin is pulled over his knuckles, bleeding ivory. But I didn't. I could never do such a thing, and yet I felt like no one believed me, like I was set up to take the fall from the very start, and I still don't know why. So, obviously we're going to flirt. Reach out without really thinking about what I'm doing, just knowing that I want to help, I want to comfort him. I place my hand on top of his, and squeeze once, and Eric loosens his fist, just a little, just enough to relieve pressure. He stares at the point of contact with a pinched brow, and I anticipate rejection, but instead he flattens his hand, fingers flayed. Pauses for a beat, then he turns his palm over beneath mine, facing upward. Slide my fingers between his and swallows thickly, his warmth unmatched, just as I imagined it would be. And then he curls those scarred cross digits inwards to lace them with mine. Ugh. The attention to detail, oh my goodness. I believe you, if that means anything. Thank you, it does. Sometimes I think I might have gone mad. Like they made me believe it. He smiles, but the soft edge of it is contradicted by the frown on his brow, one I'd like to brush away with my fingertips. You're not alone in this, no matter how much you might pretend you are. Eric has lovely hands. They're strong. As I've seen things and wielded many swords, but still feel soft, still gentle. The simple rest of his thumb against my skin sends my head spinning. It's nice. Nice to be touched like this. By him. I know that. It just feels silly to be hopeful when everything else has been burning, like I dragged them into the flames too. Brayden, Brew, anyone who tries to show me kindness. He looks away. His cheeks are red like candy apples. And, you. No. Jeez, that would be so sweet. He squeezes his head reflexively when he says it, my heart a hammer, and he smiles shyly. He smiles down at his drink, and it takes a chance to steal a proper look at him. Though he's only in his 30s, I know he bears burdens heavier than most. The weight of them had clearly left their mark on him. He's still beautiful. Maybe even more so because of the traces of that hard work, his hard decisions and heartache. His tireless commitment is revealed in the gentle lines around his eyes and in the stern set of his mouth. We sit like this for a little while, a hand in his, the sound of the other patrons of sinking glass surrounding us. Everything that needs to be said tonight is out in the open, and he takes his scarred and freckled fingers twined tightly with my own. I feel like I might not know how to let them go. It's pretty late, I watch as he brings his glass up to his lips, pausing for a second to smile before he drinks the dregs, and then he's setting it down. I think I should call it a night. I clear my throat and move to pull my hand away, but he holds me tighter, squeezes my fingers. His amber eyes catch upon my gaze, and whisper like it's a secret. I feel so much lighter. And then he lets me go, and the locks it starts. Anytime. I mean it. Nemesis snaps me from my thoughts as he loudly gathers up the empty glass and raises a brow at me as Eric stands and clears his throat. Last call. Shit, is it really that late? We're leaving. She nods, still looking at me funny, almost like she's daring me to hurt him and see how far she can shove her foot up my arse. Night, Nem. I stand to join him, and we walk in silence towards the door, our arms bumping, fingers brushing. It feels like being electrocuted, sparks flying. I wonder if he feels it too. Another beautiful night in Novus, the sky clear and inky black, the stars full and fat and twinkling brightly. Errant takes a deep breath and tips his head skyward, gazing up at the crescent moon like it might whisper some secrets to him. I love nights like this. It resets the equilibrium, you know? Well, this is familiar. Yeah, he thought this was the night ride. We're getting close to where Eric encounters the night. He leans against the wall of the tavern and relaxes like a weight truly has been taken off his broad shoulders. He looks content, like maybe emoting all that trauma to someone who'll listen has done him some good. He also looks a little drunk, but I get the impression that Eric doesn't change much under the influence. Apart from his red cheeks and the fact that it's much less grumpy, that is. You can go on home. I'm just going to stay here for a little while. You're sure? I can walk you. It's not too far. He shakes his head and waves me off. Nah, it's fine. The longer I'm not cooped up in the cabin in my lonesome, the better. My head's cleared out here. Obviously, we're going to pick the third option. Fair enough. I pause and take it aside of him, liking the way he looks under the light of the moon. You really see just so many freckles under his skin, the map of constellations that form with spinked-up cheeks and his crooked nose. I'll be mad at myself if I don't say goodbye properly. I step forward and reach for his hand, trying to convey what I'm doing with a gentle look. I wait, and then his fingers are brushing mine, swirling around them. With a lazy grin, he reels me in and right into a tight embrace. His hair smells like wood smoke and sunshine, and I inhale greedily. Thank you for tonight. His voice is a deep rumble, a whisper. He takes hold of my arms and I step back a little before leaning in to press a kiss to his cheek, letting it linger. Good night, Eric. It doesn't feel like he's willing to let me go, his thumbs brushing against the fabric of my sleeve. Good night, Nathan. Get home safe. He releases me and reluctantly steps away, walking backward just so I can get my fill a little longer. Just as I'm about to turn the corner and he's about to disappear from my sight, he waves, and I wave back. My cheeks hurt from smiling. I think I might be a little bit screwed. Oh yeah. Almost done. One last little bit. I tend to follow the path home that I'm familiar with, but I'm thrown off by both the darkness and all the thoughts that swim around in my head. I stop when I hear a rustling to my left, hoping it's something simple like a bunny or a thunk. Not something terrifying that I won't be able to stare off with my dagger, but then I see a flash of light and I'm overcome with annoyance. Is he on a mission? Is he kissing against a tree? Is he following me and plotting my death? I approach quietly, but I'm not disillusioned enough to think I'm going to be able to sneak up on a man like Raiden. However, he still seems so enthralled with whatever is stalking that he isn't bothering to watch his back. Rookie mistake. Another step. Quietly. As I draw closer, I see he has his hand placed flat upon a thick tree trunk, his body hidden and coiled tight like he's ready to strike. If he's actively hiding from someone, he's not exactly doing a great job. I don't fancy meeting the pointy end of his dagger, so I don't truly intend to startle him. I'm fully aware that sneaking up on a deadly assassin isn't exactly smart. However, I would like to know if he's sneaking around doing horrible things that Ivory doesn't know about, like they suggested some of the snakes might be. A mere inches from him now, so close I can hear his quiet, steady breathing. Then he turns, and before I can register what's happening, I'm pinned to the trunk of a tree with a dagger to my throat. He's fast, but even that, I'd be impressed if I wasn't a little bit terrified. His stern expression is unwavering, even when I know he's registered that to me. I now finally know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of the infamous snake in the shadow blade. What are you doing here? I swallow, feeling the cold steel against the bottom of my throat as I do so. He shifts his wrist and the dagger glides from my jugular to rest underneath my chin in one swift motion, tipping it higher. I'm just walking home. He frowns deeply, so much for that lethal trust he got so happy over me not having earlier. Sneaking up on an assassin in the dark isn't advisable. I didn't think it was possible to sneak up on you. He licks his lips and scowls, cocking his head to the side. His focus isn't entirely set on me, his eyes starting to look at something over my shoulders. You here to join them? Kill me? I open my mouth to speak, to ask him what the fuck he's on about, but then he's dropping his dagger and covering my mouth with a palm. It's horribly dark, but I can still see that he has this wild look in his eyes, wide and bright alert with a hint of panic. It's a new look on him. I don't like it. It only makes the dread in my stomach feel thicker. Quite as a mess. Got it? I nod, and he slowly drops his palm, placing it against a tree beside my head, still intense and keeping me pinned in place. Like he's scared I'll run out from behind the trunk and throw my arms at whatever he's apparently hunting. What the fuck is going on? You really aren't here for them? I swear to God that I have no idea what you're talking about. He exhales through his nose, his scowl softening a little, his edge is getting less sharp. What are you doing, Raiden? What is this? He sneers, his teeth flashing white as he curls his lip and pats his head. I'm writing odes to the fucking moon. What do you think I'm doing? Something sinister and terrible, probably. This might be the first time I've been caught being a good boy, actually. I guess we're gonna go apart. He may very well be in mortal danger, but he's not too close for my brain to function properly. All I can see is brown eyes and bitten pink lips and the temptations of physical ache. That's a shame. He narrows his eyes at me and finds the lack of seriousness in my words. The hand that he rested as a trap moves to my face, fingertips grazing the edge of my jaw in a slow drag. There's something dangerous I don't understand. Just over there, packed with food, and yet you're the thing holding my attention. How do you manage that? His thumb glides over my bottom lip, and it crowds close enough that our noses brush, our bodies seem from shoulder to hip. That feels like a you problem. I think you might be right about that. I could kiss him if I wanted. The invitation's open, the sign's all there. He's hesitating. And I don't know why. Ray? He growls quietly and drops his hand from my face, looking disappointed that he isn't touching me anymore. I feel that too. Tell me that again, but tomorrow, yeah? I'll take you out. I quirk a brow. To take you out holds multiple meanings when you're a professional killer. I already told you I won't hurt you unless you hurt me first. You're not planning on that, are you? No, I'm really not. You're smiling. Have we finally figured this? He gestures between us. Right? I'm not trying to kill you. You're not trying to kill me. He nods. Right. Good. But he takes hold of my shoulders and gently turns me around so I'm facing the tree. Presses close again. He looks at my ear, his voice low and deep. Then I finally see what has him spooked. They're trying to kill us both. Or everyone. I haven't quite figured it out yet. There's a flicker of light in the distance, a dull copper glow that emanates from the pocket of darkness bracketed by twisted trees. Then another light appears, and another, and I register that it's torches. Fire. They're drawing nearer, footsteps scratching loudly against the forest floor. What the? Who are they? I look at Raiden over my shoulder. That's the problem. I have no fucking idea. I hear chanting. Chanting is never a good sign, as history will often dictate. I can smell the magic in the air, thick and suffocating. Raiden grabs my arm and we carefully dart to another tree, one further from them as they slowly draw nearer. I never expected to see you scared of anything. Not scared, just the distant glow of the torches makes his eyes appear almost red, dark, and sinister. I'm usually the shadowy thing that lurks in the dark and scares people matching. I'm not used to being on the other end. We move again and again, still watching and waiting to see if they do anything. I can't understand the language, and neither can Raiden Princeton's growl of any indication. I can see the wheels turning, his fingers flexing at his sides, his stance poised and ready to strike, but then he closes his eyes and shakes it off. We should go. We can't take any risks when we don't know what we're dealing with. I find my agreement. I can't say I enjoy the feeling of being hunted by things brandishing towards us. They could be hiding pitchforks under the cloak, too, for all we know. So Raiden and I do what we do best. We slither away in the darkness. We leave the monsters behind. Something tells me that these are not people who fear us. The shadows in the dark, the snakes that everyone with a shred of respect for their own mortality have nightmares about. No, this is something new. And that's when it hits me. The air was thick with it, with the scent of death and magic. Something new. Something different. Dun dun dun! End of chapter 2. So yeah, it's the same thing that Rue and the Knight saw, just obviously from a different part of the forest. So, Ambassador, Knight, and Nomad all ended Chapter 3 on a cliffhanger. They're all going to end Chapter 2 on a cliffhanger. They're all going to end Chapter 3 on a cliffhanger as well. Too far. I don't see it. Okay. So that's it for the Nomad, right? At least Chapter 2. So we got both sides of the story. We got a little bit of Maz's point of view on what happened with Eric, and a little bit of Eric's point of view. I noticed this. I can't remember if either tells the Knight anything. I guess I have to wait and find out. Next chapter, there's an incident with Livia for the Ambassador Knight and Nomad that I have been looking forward to. Well, I've been looking forward to all of them, really. But the upcoming scenes with Lydia are some of my favorites. Yeah. So, I hope you've been enjoying this. Next week will be the Ambassador Route Chapter 3. We will find out who the heck they encountered in the chapel late at night while the Knight and the Nomad were fucking around in the forest. So I hope you enjoy yourself. You have a good week. Maybe I'll see you on Sunday if I do decide to. Excuse me, it's cold. If I do decide to live stream the When the Night Comes revamp demo. If I do, it will probably not be both chapters because that's a bit much. But definitely at least the beginning, the first chapter. Because, oh my gosh, the voices is just spot on. But regardless of whether I do that, I will be streaming the Ambassador Route next Wednesday, hopefully. So until then, take care. Bye.